a rude person, nor did he behave rudely. A Muslim is never rude in his behavior or in his speech. If anyone is rude to you, never behave rudely to him. Rather, treat him with kindness.
This hadith is sponsored by Ashraful Aid, International Humanitarian Organization.
Are you looking for a meaningful way to fulfill your zakat obligation? Look no further than Ashraful Aid. With our trusted track record, your zakat reaches those who need it the most in the most honorable and dignified manner. Visit our website at www.ashrafulaid.org.
Sunnah a Day, proudly brought to you by Sunpick, 100% pure sunflower cooking oil. Sunpick, cook more with less.
Sunnah a Day. Upon awakening, rub both the hands over the eyes and face to chase away sleep and ensure alertness.
Sunnah a Day, proudly brought to you by Sunpick, 100% pure sunflower cooking oil. Sunpick, cook more with less.
Imagine this. You're putting together a 7-color meal, from the creamy pasta to the glazed carrots and flavorful onion gravy. This entire meal is made with our 100% pure extra virgin olive oil from our La Familia range, bringing outstanding quality and taste to your kitchen. Shop La Familia 100% pure extra virgin olive oil at any leading supermarkets near you. La Familia, heart of the home.
There are over 200 million orphans globally. We can't help all of them. But what if we each helped just one? The Al Imdad Foundation now gives you an opportunity to help just one orphan from Syria or Palestine. For just 500 Rand per month, you can help safeguard the dignity of an orphan by assisting them with basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and attention. Our orphan sponsorship program allows you to track the progress of your orphan through regular feedback. Make a difference in the life of an orphan today. Visit alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
This October, Tayo Raham in the sacred city of Taif embark on a life-changing Umrah group tour with World View Travel. Guided by renowned spiritual leader Maulana Muhammad Banker. Experience 2 nights in Taif, 4 nights in Mecca and 5 nights in Medina. Luxury hotels, daily breakfast, round-trip transfers, ziyarats, internal flights and visas. Call 031 0017062 or 071 835 0216. Follow us at Worldview Travel. Worldview Travel creates memories to last a lifetime.
Radio Al-Ansar, Durban, 90.4 FM. Peter Maritzburg, 105.6 FM.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban, 90.4 and Peter Maritzburg, 105.6 FM. Every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sac. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
खुदा ने मुझको दिया माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से मिला है जो भी मिला, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, जहाँ जहाँ भी दिल छाने लगे, जहाँ जहाँ भी गया दिल छाने लगे, ये है तेरा माँ तेरी दुआओं से तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा की दुआ जन्नत की हवा ये कामयाबियाँ शोहरत कदम कदम पे मिली ये कामयाबियाँ शोहरत कदम कदम पे मिली नसीब ऐसा मिला माँ तेरी दुआओं से तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से तवाफ मैंने किया भी सही मरवाही तवाफ मैंने किया भी सही मरवाही जो मैंने मेरा किया माँ तेरी दुआओं से तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से मुझे गिराने पे हासिद तुले हुए थे मगर मुझे गिराने पे हासिद तुले हुए थे मगर मैं दुश्मनों से बचा माँ तेरी दुआओं से तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से पसंद है इसमें उजाले का कुछ जमाल नहीं पसंद है इसमें उजाले का कुछ जमाल नहीं उरूज को मिला माँ तेरी दुआओं से तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marisburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba bikum. My name is Yunus Sac, and I will be co-hosting News in Focus tonight with Sumaya Khan, who is the presenter of various shows in Al Ansar, including School Matters. Today she will be covering youth affairs and employment opportunities for the youth and related issues. The show will run from now till just after 10 p.m. for 2 hours. We'll be interviewing our guests shortly. Today the date is the 12th of November 2025, 22nd Jumad al-Ula 1447 AH. On tonight's show, topics are, we know that today is Budget Policy Statement Day. We're going to do an analysis of the medium-term budget, but just for the information of our listeners, statistically, the income from our 2025 budget is in the region of 2.2 trillion rand. Expenses is anticipated to be 2.58 trillion rand. So there's a projected deficit of 4.8% of GDP. Now, the question that a lot of people are asking is that where the budget money comes from. The total revenue for 2024-25, I gave the information, but 40% of our income comes from personal income tax. That is the taxes that are deducted from people's salaries and companies' taxes. 25% comes from VAT. That is the 15% you pay. That makes up 25% of the income of government. Corporate income tax makes up 16%. Fuel levies make up 8%. Customs and excise duties 5%, and other forms of income is 6%. So will the Minister of Finance balance the books in this budget? We will have our economist Hassan Motala later on in the studio to give us a rundown on what the various discussions are about the budget. It is relevant to note that debt servicing costs is quite a huge amount. 22 cents from every 1 rand goes towards payment of debt. So we got a lot of debt in this country, but we'll unpack that a little bit later. We'll also be doing an analysis, and challenges faced by the youth due to limited employment opportunities. Sumaya Khan has been running with programs for the last 2-3 weeks on this subject, and how do we, because the youth makes up a large community, that we have to consider going forward. So we're going to unpack that discussion later on in the show. As I said, Hassan Motala, the asset manager, a chartered accountant, will be joining us later in the show, but I have live with me, firstly, our co-host for this evening, Sumaya Khan. Sumaya, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome, and thanks for joining us in News in Focus this evening.
Wa alaikum salam. Jazakallah for having me.
Okay, we also have Ismail Muhammad, also known as Milo. I think he likes Milo, that's why they kept his name. He's the CEO of Iqsa Trust, but he's formerly the head of Sharia division at Standard Bank KZN, and he chose to join Iqsa Trust in the last 6 months. This particular organization is involved with a variety of humanitarian projects and responding to empowerment of communities. Ismail, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah, brother Yunus and sister Sumaya, for this opportunity.
Yeah, now Ismail is also, a political civic activist in his own way. He's involved in various projects, and he's on top of his game in terms of what's happening in Palestine. So you find that he's linking up with a lot of, activities related to the kind of support we can give to our Palestinian brothers and sisters. Now, we will take another nasheed break at the request of our listeners, but before we do that, the show is interactive, and we welcome your comments, which can be sent to us on the studio WhatsApp number 06090411056. You can send us your messages, and we will certainly go through those messages. We'll take a break for a nasheed, and inshallah, after the nasheed break, Sumaya will continue with the interview with Brother Ismail Muhammad and Lorraine Pillay Alagasen, who is a community activist, and she will be speaking relevant or raising relevant issues related to the youth and exactly how do we deal with creating employment opportunities for the youth. So we'll take a nasheed break, and inshallah we'll continue our discussion after the break.
Ya Rasool Allah, Ya Habib Allah, Aaka आका 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 फिर के गली गली तबाह ठोकर सब की खाए क्यों दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों रुखसत काफिला कशान गश से हमें उठाए क्यों रुखसत से काफिला कशान गश से हमें उठाए क्यों सोते हैं उनके साए में सोते हैं उनके साए में कोई हमें जगाए क्यों फिर के दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों यादें हुजूर की कसम गफलत ऐश है सितम यादें हुजूर की कसम गफलत ऐश है सितम खूब है कैद गम में हम खूब है कैद गम में हम कोई हमें छुड़ाए क्यों फिर के गली तबाह वो जो न थे तो कुछ न था वो जो न हो तो कुछ न हो वो जो न थे तो कुछ न था वो जो न हो तो कुछ न हो जान है वो जहान की जान है वो जहान की जान है तो जहान है आका आका की खाए क्यों दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों हाँ जान है इश्क मुस्तफा रोज फजू करे खुदा जान है इश्क मुस्तफा रोज फजू करे खुदा जिसको दर्द का मजा जिसको दर्द का मजा सांसे दवा उठाए क्यों फिर के दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों है तो रज़ा निरा सितम जुर्म पे कर लजा हम है तो रज़ा निरा सितम जुर्म पे कर लजाए हम कोई बचाए सौ से गम कोई बचाए सौ से गम साजे तरब बजाए क्यों
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, welcome back to News in Focus. I'm Sumaya Khan, co-host, and the host is Brother Yunus Sac. In studio, we have Ismail. He'd like to be called Milo. You know, what a beautiful nasheed. If you understood the words, you will just sit and reduce you to tears. Alhamdulillah. You know, for the past few weeks, something which has been on every psychologist, humanitarian, politician, you could say just the person in general, when it's looking at the youth, unemployment. How does unemployment affect, you know, when you're looking at jobs, looking at crime, looking at the ills of society? When you dissect it and unpack it, you realize that all of it stems from the youth not being employed and not having work. And when you look at it, the majority of people in South Africa are the youth. The youth is from the age, if you go research 15 to 35, that's referred to the youth. And the unemployment rate is so high. In studio, as I mentioned, we have my host, Brother Yunus Sac, and Brother Milo. Assalamu alaikum once again.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah for embracing us this Wednesday evening. I know it's quite late, but alhamdulillah, you are in studio with us.
I actually sacrificed a boys to men night out because normally Wednesday night is our men's night out.
Alhamdulillah, we really, really appreciate that. Do you know, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you were working in, if I can mention, Standard Bank, and you decided to leave Standard Bank and, you know, do quite a bit of humanitarian work. You're in the corporate sector. Now you're out there helping. One would say, are you gone mad? Are you gone crazy? Why would one step down from a position in the corporate sector just to be on the ground, humanitarian, helping the common man, the man who's struggling?
Okay, let me be very revealing about that. So the funny part is that when I was in the corporate world, they regarded me as a humanitarian because they knew my evenings and weekends. They said I was the go-to man for CSI projects. It was any leftover food, somebody they'll look for me, even if I'm not invited to the event, and come distribute the food amongst the homeless. I lived in North Beach for 17 years. So I knew all the shelters, all the homeless. And as you know, got involved in a bit with actually it was from the anti-apartheid days. Joined the various movements, even if from the Islamic point of view, Islamic Society, MSA, MYM, been through the whole cycle of that. So shukr, it was always in my blood and genes. And I must state for a fact also that my father, before his ill health, was an Islamic Relief. And my brother Ismail, who's more famous than me, by the way, he is also with two different humanitarian related organizations. So I guess it runs in the genes. And yeah, a big sacrifice to leave a corporate world that's the largest by a banking institution in Africa. But I thought I'll do it when I'm 63. Allah knows best, 55, technical early retirement. And I said, I revert to Romana and my children, asked them, what's the best move? And they said, it's something that you've always wanted. Allah's given it to you earlier than you expected. Take it as a gift.
Yeah.
There you got your answer.
Alhamdulillah. You know, one would not understand that when you're out assisting people and the feeling and the contentment and the happiness you get by just helping someone cannot match. Somebody else will think, let me just have a whole lot of money or having a position or a status or just moving up the corporate ladder. But again, contentment and happiness is different to everybody. Brother Yunus, you've been through the mill, you've been with municipality.
It's a very important subject. And, you look at the stats, it was about 35% of unemployment. And we're now looking at an improvement, it's down to about 31.5%. And in a lot of my programs, back in the day, we're trying to address the situation, to check whether government can provide opportunities for our youth. Because as you said, if we don't try to look for employment opportunities, they're going to get into various scourges, criminal activities, and we know that is becoming rife. Drug addiction, thefts, etc. And then they're getting into all kinds of vices, and that becomes a huge problem in society. And we know worldwide what's happening, how, the spread of social media is causing major problems. So I think it's very important that we look at ways and means of creating economic empowerment amongst our youth, amongst the families of the youth. And I know Ismail, mentioned that his organization, now that he's taken over from, Mahmoud Baker, who was basically a veteran in this setup. Whenever I met Mahmoud, his entire life is around humanitarian projects. And with these humanitarian projects become, you get empowerment coming in, and then the youth, start finding employment. And we, Sumaya, in the souk that we have, more than 370 stalls are there. And we're capacitating, our people to do business projects. And I mentioned in last year's, closing meeting of the souk, that more than 4,000 people were employed to do work in the souk, and the same will happen this year. Souk will be running from the 24th. So it's very important that we target that age group you're talking about, because that's a very important age group. And when we're talking about elections coming up as well, we need to get those youth registered to become voters and ensure we get the right politicians in place.
100%. When you really look at it, South Africa's youth faces numerous socio-economic challenges, many which stems from the country's high unemployment rate. And despite, having being energetic, innovative, and willing to work, millions of young people struggle to find jobs. And this is the harsh reality of South Africa. Yet with the qualifications and everything, employment opportunities are far-reaching and deeply affects individual families and society at large. One wouldn't think, if we, as you say, unpack it, we look at the psychological and emotional stress, increased in crime, social instability, skills mismatched and lack of experience, brain drain, delayed independence and family formation, and also decline in social cohesion. So it's like a ripple effect to everything. And it boils down, it ends up going into the community, which goes into the province and into the country. So prolonged unemployment also fosters inequality and resentment. So I think when you look at it, Milo, you've been an activist in your days at the university. We've been getting a lot of protest and unhappiness. And with that, you're getting buildings damaged, fires, the police have to come. And this is where we are at this point in South Africa where majority of the youth are not happy, and the resentment is there and the anger. So when young people feel excluded from the economy, they may lose faith in government institutions and democratic processes, weakening social unity. So, Yunus, I think we are right there currently in South Africa.
Well, listen, I think it's important that the government realizes that you got to capacitate youth, and youth are not excluded from becoming politicians as well. Because, there's a good couple of thousand municipalities countrywide. And a lot of them, as you said, are studying at universities. And when they finish their degrees, there's limited opportunities. So it doesn't mean you must only go into the corporate sector. You can get into the government sector. And the government is the biggest provider of job opportunities for our youth. And we just have to empower them and make sure they manage the process correctly. And I think when you ask Ismail some questions, he will realize when he's doing these capacitation projects amongst the various communities, that it becomes imperative that he considers the future of the youth, Sumaya.
Yeah. Limited employment opportunities for South African youth are not just economic issues. They are a national crisis that affects the country's social fabric, Milo, and future growth. Addressing this challenge requires so much investment in education. I think your new venture, your new humanitarian work is involved in this, and entrepreneurship. How does that come in? And pre-vocational training, because not everyone is academically inclined. End of the day, when you finish school, you need to be responsible and earn a living and be able to sustain yourself. So we're looking more at skills, especially in South Africa. And that boils down again, a ripple effect, the circle closes, job creations. So initiatives that truly empower the youth to become active participants in our country. So you are involved in Iqsa Trust at the moment. Can you tell us about your position and how it's been?
So, well, Yunus mentioned about Dr. Mahmoud Baker Yusuf, from the son of the soils of Egypt, adopted son of South Africa. I think he spent the greater part of his life in South Africa. He's been to over 40 countries. And his decision was to be to any of those countries, anywhere in the world with the Dala Al-Baraka group, and he chose South Africa. He was there in Al-Baraka, and they asked him still then, and he said, no, I want to be with Iqsa Trust. So that tells you a lot about the person. So having known him, such an icon, so his vision for Iqsa Trust was basically primarily focused on 6 sectors, right? Education and skills development, welfare and social development, healthcare, job creation. He's a very passionate about sustainability and climate change. You just see the passion when you speak to him. And disaster relief, because I think, like you spoke about the fires and the disasters and the informal settlements, it's like natural to those areas, unfortunately. And so he focused also a lot on disaster relief. So Iqsa Trust, coming from that background, now me in the last 6 months as a new CEO, they say a new broom sweeps clean, but not necessarily that. It doesn't matter whatever I introduced to Iqsa Trust is any different to Dr. Baker, but there may be some imitating and emulation taking place. I'll definitely inherit some of his projects, probably adapt some, and obviously bring on some new projects as well. And if you ask me personally where I want to focus, by the way, we're sitting with a strat session with the trustees soon to map a new way forward. Let's call it that way, right? And there's 5 areas that I'm going to be strongly asking to focus on. This is your 5-point plan. Having studied economics 3 and did my assignment on Japan and Germany, ravaged by war. And what did they invest in? Education and entrepreneurship. But how? First thing, investment in early childhood development. Yeah. Sumaya, what's your assessment in the world in schooling standards? Grade 4. Are they able to read with understanding?
No.
In South Africa, we're not becoming the top 100 countries. Yet we spend the most on education in Africa. But there's African countries ahead of us. Right? Number 2, our whole schooling system. That I see every second day in the Mercury, KZN Education Department struggling to pay the salaries of teachers.
Billions.
Where's the money?
Bankrupt.
And I see evidence. I visited 20 schools in the last 6 months in Durban Metro. Each school more than 1,000 population of scholars. Infrastructure crumbling. How do you expect those children to learn in that type of environment? It's not their fault. I always tell my 4 children that I'll be very fortunate and grateful to Allah that they're able to go to Model C schools, ex-Model C schools, pay that fee and get the benefit. The public schools are in a state. And Iqsa, thankfully, Dr. Baker was folk. He knew that.
Iqsa Trust, how I know, everywhere you'll see, in every schools around KZN, if you're driving past, you'll see a board, Iqsa Trust, something they sponsored. And Dr. Baker, I met him like a couple of times. He's so passionate. I know in schools during COVID, they were going around distributing, wanting to do solar panels with the switch, the inverter boards and the DB. That principals and governing bodies thought this was a hoax. Because who would walk into a building, Mr. Sakur, and tell that they would like to put solar panels? And if you drive around like the Overport, the Asherville, the Mayville, the Sydenham, Iqsa Trust has helped so many. And so I know with education, they go all out. With education.
So if I look at this year's synopsis, I've only joined the last 6 months, right? Don't tackle me too much now on the historical of it, because the man must come here himself and rather talk about it. He deserves the credit. Because I'm getting fat. I'm scoring the credit. I'm going to schools where he's done the success, and I'm going and receiving the handovers, and they're feeding me. He should be fed. So like for example, you said solar every year with DUT, a partnership. I never knew due to your service providers, choose a school in the Durban metro for solar panels. So I was in Phoenix this year. They hand over from last year. And this year we're doing Bretzenwood High School. So I'm not going to give you a secret how the school gets chosen. That's the whole panel.
You know, I was approached, someone from Iqra Trust, I think about 5 years ago, contacted me. They said, we heard of you and all that you do. Can you assist us? Give us a list. And I gave a list of schools. So I said, why did you ask me? They said, because we know you look at the bigger picture. Because generally when you're looking at sponsorship and donation and upliftment, a lot of it is about social media and it's about I did this and, you know, doing that. But Iqra Trust is not like that. They go into informal settlements. They go into schools which are broken down. And they also service educators. I know they held maths workshops for educators, training skills. And if you look at it, maths educators are not trained.
True.
Not trained.
You're telling me that, Dr. Baker, I thought I'd travel a lot for corporate Standard Bank within every corner of KZN. I just joined Iqra Trust. I was sent to Port Edward, just bordering Eastern Cape. I was sent to past Pietermaritzburg in early childhood and up in Greytown in the rural area of that. So I was like amazed that I had to go to all those areas, which is obviously now my forte because I've been to all those areas for the bank. And it's amazing where we are reaching, our tentacles are reaching and what's going on there, because that's where it's also most needed. We neglect the rural and hence the urbanization. The rural people are telling me when I go out there, there's no development, so we're moving to urbanization. Yeah. And urbanization cannot manage, and you can see.
Do you know, just sitting here, listeners, we have two CEOs, and they have one goal. They come from a background from corporate, but they have one goal in common, humanitarian, taking care of individuals. I know the CEO, we started something with School Matters. 100 families will be sorted out, their learners, their children with school uniform. And we're looking at the greater province of KZN. It's not specifically for a certain person. So when you are doing this with so much of passion and heart, you are looking at another human being, upliftment. You know, it's not about I'm looking at this race and this culture and this person I know. You're just sweeping the entire province in progression and upliftment, you know. And Al-Ansar Foundation is quite involved in all of that.
Yeah, Sumaya, I think, you know, you spoke about this school project last year. Our chairman, Ashfaq Dawood, was quite passionate about ensuring that, like Iqra Trust, we consider supporting our school programs. And an amount of 400,000 from our budget was allocated to school projects. And Sumaya Khan is driving these projects to ensure that these children are given lunch. If they don't have lunch in school, they provided with uniforms, shoes. Many of them come with torn uniforms, etc. So and choose the projects or schools where there's a great need out. And this is why, you know, the Al-Ansar Foundation, we supplement other community-driven projects and NPOs, and we worked closely with Iqra Trust and Mahmoud Baker, and the humanitarian manner in which he deals with issues. He's got a passionate, and he knows that whatever support Iqra Trust gives to the Al-Ansar Foundation, that particular support is used for disabled school that we are running in Essendon Road, where we've got children who got various disabilities and also slow learners that other schools cannot afford to take on. So, Sumaya, you're quite right that this humanitarian part of the corporate sector has to come into being, because the majority of the people in South Africa are poor people and they come from poor backgrounds. And in the informal settlements, we know that more than 200,000 families in eThekwini alone are living in there. And if you go there, they're living in abject poverty. So we have to spend a lot of time assisting those communities out there. But also other race groups are really battling to make ends meet because a lot of them are unemployed. So focus on the youth acquiring employment, assisting the schools to educate our children, to really have skills that will enable them to earn a living becomes crucial in South Africa. And indeed, we know what's happening in Palestine and how the problem is coming about there. So worldwide, it's a problem, but we have to start in our neighborhood, in our own backyard. So the subject you're talking about this evening is crucial, and there's going to be a series of discussions around the subject.
Yeah, the challenges faced by youth, you know, is due to limited employment issues. While our tech tries to get in contact with Busi, one of our activists, Milo, can you tell us, you explain what's the main focus of Iqra Trust. How do you capacitate people and organizations? Because when you are someone who's helping, people just expect you to always be giving. How does it work? Because sometimes we don't even have the resources, all is depleted.
Yeah, we've just got to be wary of the challenge that we can't be everything to everybody. And I think that's what we got to manage our expectations. I mean, funds are limited in any organization. Everyone has their budget. So I think we must manage expectations, and we've got to select projects. We've got to see the benefit to the people, look at the cost benefit analysis as well. We apply corporate governance principles. We look at financial statements. We visit sites. And that type of things. We do our assessment, we do interviews. So the main thing of capacity, what I found, is the big area we keep on talking, and I think Yunus and yourself keep on mentioning about the unemployed. So we're talking actively unemployed would be about between 6 to 8 million, right? And how are you going to take them back to education? And a lot of these left school. I mean, you know, Sumaya, how many, 1 million will start at grade R or grade 1, not even 500,000 will get to matric.
But now, this lot is finishing matric, so the unemployment rate just increases.
Yeah. So let's get to the 6 to 8 million. That's a ticking time bomb. That's where your civil riots, your instability, your challenge comes in. That you don't tap that, you got major issues. We talk about the Arab Spring. You're gonna have the South African Spring at a bigger scale and riots. So this is what I like, and I've seen that there's a lot of emphasis on skills development centers are being set up by our communities and other communities, and I think by giving a person a skill, you're going to now take them away from a reliance to a non-reliance. The one challenge I find coming from a banking side, I must stipulate that, yes, have skill centers, but don't forget that period of incubation. So you need a mentor, employ a mentor, and take them to a cycle. We're partnering with a Muslim organization, by the way. I don't know if I'm supposed to name them or not. The Muslim organization, we're taking people that are zakatable, identifying them. We got a 12-week incubation. There's a mentor, a financial mentor, taking them to 12 weeks. I was shocked when I went to the first presentations with Dr. Baker when I just joined. And those guys, the way they were dressed up, the PowerPoint, I said, I never even see bank clients present like that. And they come in only for 20, 30, 40, 50,000 for small micro enterprise. So what we're going to do, having a skill is one thing. A lot of people think you give them a skill, they're going to get employed. My argument is, where's the employment going to come from? Our economy is so tight, it's not even growing at 1%. How are you going to absorb that? So rather, switch from the same skill and teach them to run a micro enterprise. Whether it's from home, flea markets, pop-ups, very much like what Al-Ansar, like you explained, you're doing a businesses at the souk, you are capacitated into what level, and season time as well. So where you're expecting your foot numbers there. So skills development, go with incubation, and this is we're busy with an Islamic organization who's taking zakat recipients and trying to move them to a sense of non-reliance now, self-reliance. And by micro enterprise. And it's amazing that what this incubation, because I was a banker, seen incubators, and this gentleman is a psychologist. So he's gone on and done a bridging financing and other stuff, and he's magic with the applicants. And so as a partnership, we evaluate and we're passing on capital, and there's a monitoring going on after that. And now you're seeing them that they're getting money to start like a fridge, fryers. So it's food a lot, clothes, flea markets pop up. And you know what's the best part? You must see the collaboration amongst the various applicants. So now they're cross-selling, cross-marketing. It's amazing, this whole. I mean, I think I'm like back in the banking sector.
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But you know, this is where the private sector plays such a vital role, because we cannot rely on government. Well, we'll be linking up with Lorraine Pillay Alagasen, an advocate for gender-based violence, counselor, youth empowerment, decision maker, sits on many steering committees in uplifting the youth, creating employment in various organizations and government programs. Lorraine, welcome to News in Focus with me, Sumaya Khan, and my host, Brother Yunus Sac.
Thank you, Sumaya. Thank you for having me, Brother Yunus. It's always a pleasure.
Sister Lorraine, you are on the ground, you're in the field. Every time when I speak to you, you tell me, Sumaya, I just came out of court. I was assisting this issue, this case with the youth. So you know what is happening. You know, we've just been discussing the rate of unemployment, especially with the youth, the challenges. We were giving stats and just going. Can you tell us, unemployment, how does this affect the youth?
Well, Sumaya, we have a major challenge regarding the youth unemployment. Okay, so due to the unemployment, am I a bit too loud?
You're fine.
Okay, because I can hear echo.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so the challenges that the youths are currently facing right now is poverty, crime, and depression, lower self-esteem, because these kids are coming out of school and they don't have an identity, they don't have a vision. These kids are just sitting at home. So a low self-esteem is setting in, depression, anxiety, poverty, drugs, and these kids now, the only thing that they have in their hands is a cell phone. So the increase of cyber fraud that is going on, sugar daddy, sugar mummies, and these kids are now being taken advantage of, because they are now finding other ways to supplement their income and find other resources. So these kids are actually under a lot of pressure, and drugs is actually very rife in communities all over. Even like the school kids, because when you speak to the youths, they'll tell you there's no jobs, and they'll tell you, we don't have the funds to study, and these kids don't have that information at hand whereby they can apply for fundings that the government has set aside for. So we've got a lot of stress with the youths currently.
When you're looking at economy, how does economy affects unemployment? It's, as we were just mentioning, it's a ripple effect and like dominoes. When you're looking at the economy, how is that affected by unemployment? Okay, I think, do we still have her? Okay, Sister Lorraine, can you hear us? Okay, so I think probably we have some problem linking up there. Okay. Okay, she's muted. I think she muted herself by mistake. Okay, while we're trying to get her to unmute, Brother Sakur, when you're looking at the unemployment economy, that's quite terrible currently, because you are aware of all the political structures, and currently, as you know, elections are coming up next year. All political parties want to look good, but what are they doing for the youth?
Well, listen, I think, you mentioned there's a ripple effect of the economy affecting unemployment. In government, maladministration is a huge problem. These politicians are helping themselves with funding that is meant to empower our communities. And the end result is that, less money is being invested in employing the youth into these government departments. But I think Lorraine made some very pertinent points. She mentions that if the youth don't have any funds to study, they're resorting to drugs and cyber, fraud and criminal activities, and because they got nothing else to do, and they're looking for something to do. So whilst the economy is a huge problem, the corporate sectors are battling to sustain themselves. Even the banking sector too, they obviously live off clients. But I think Lorraine is back. Perhaps I think you raised the question of the ripple effect of the economy affecting unemployment. If you could just chat with Lorraine, I think she's
Sister
back.
Lorraine Pillay, Alagasen, you're back on?
Oh, yes, thanks,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we were talking about how does the economy is affected by unemployment.
Okay, so the problem is in terms of the economy is affecting the youths. It's like, these kids are coming out of school, right? Okay, so we are on the ground. We are working with the kids on the ground. And we find that these kids now, they're having a low self-esteem, depression, poverty, anxiety, drugs. They actually, getting into drugs and so forth. And also these kids now, because they've got, a cell phone in their hands, they are now surfing the social media sites. They are hooking up with sugar daddy, sugar mummies to supplement the income. So we've got a major problem with the youths because they're trying to supplement the income. And I promise you something, a lot of kids that are coming out of school now, when you speak to them, they'll tell you, the first thing they'll tell you is that, we cannot find a job and, we don't have a direction. So these kids are now remaining stagnant. That is a major issue with these kids. And as I said, it's, they're falling into depression, low self-esteem, and a whole lot of stuff. Hi, Sumaya. Can you?
Yes, we can hear you. How does technology affect unemployment?
Well, in terms of technology, you'll find that a lot of companies, because of technology, they are down scaling on their staff, and most of the jobs are becoming desolate, obsolete, and there is a demand for related skills, but these skills are now being diminished because of technology. And then due to the technology advancement, the job market becomes mismatched, with the workers being laid off with skills. And then also a lack of education and training to assist with the shortage of skills. Which is much needed. So technology advancement has actually, caused the unemployment rate to escalate.
Do you know, looking at the private sector, when it's coming to job creation, how involved is the private sector with job creation?
Well, I would say that in terms of the private sector, because of the economy being, on a decline right now, there's been a lot of companies that are, downsizing and so forth.
Sister Lorraine, Pillay, Alagasen, thank you so much for linking up with us. We had a couple glitches, but you said it the way it is. And I hope everyone listening will know that our country is facing a severe case with the youth unemployment. Thank you once again for linking up with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, that was Lorraine Pillay, Alagasen advocate for gender-based violence, counselor, youth empowerment, decision maker, sits on numerous steering committees in uplifting the youth, creating employment in various organizations and government program. We'll be taking a short ad break and we will continue.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al Ansar News.
Making news, these are the 12th of November. The news from Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. Local media says yet another Queensborough toxic fire ignites health concerns. I'm Eric Monina. An underground toxic fire has been choking Queensborough and other surrounding areas southwest of Durban. According to Ward 65 Councillor Samantha Winvogel, says the source has been confirmed as an illegal dump site on the Umkomban Road in Chesterville. She says addressing the issue requires excavation of the site as the fire is burning deep from underground. Residents say they are feeling the effects of the fumes. Patrick Lincoln says the smoke is affecting his chest. Yet another resident says a whole family is also suffering from the health issues. eThekwini municipality says it has conducted inspections at the site. It says the matter has been escalated to other city departments and also added to the Environmental Compliance Committee database. More news. Local media says the Treasury could slightly lower the country's 2025 growth forecast but keep the overall economic outlook steady. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana delivered the medium-term budget policy statement in Parliament today. Steve Swartz of the ACDP political party is waiting in.
It seems this massive ship is starting to move in the right direction, and it's going to take some time. But we are, as you've indicated, concerned about low economic growth. We're concerned about the high debt to GDP ratio, which has increased a further 1.2% since March, and of course the debt service costs. So what is needed is faster economic growth. And yes, we welcome the fact that power has basically been sorted out, that the water is being sorted out, and our ports and rails is being sorted out. We are also grateful for the fact that additional tax is being collected. You remember that the minister indicated that if additional tax is not collected, there's 20 billion rand additional tax that will have to be imposed next year. We do not support that. So
More news now. The Ismangaliso Wetland Park is officially ending its long-standing management agreement with Izimvelo KwaZulu-Natal Wildlife. The CEO, Busisiwe Ntshingila, says the two entities mutually agreed to end the arrangement that has been put in place in the last 2 decades. Ntshingila says Izimvelo was initially appointed in 2002 to manage the conservation and tourism functions, while Ismangaliso built its own capacity. Bukosini says the park is now ready to take full control of its commercial facilities, including those at St. Lucia, Cape Vidal, and Sodwana Bay. Speaking at a briefing in St. Lucia today, Bukosini says the move will allow Ismangaliso to commercialize operations through public-private partnerships with the aim of boosting tourism revenue and ensuring long-term jobs for local communities. More news. Federated Hospitality Association of Southern Africa says the transfer of several coastal properties in EThekwini municipality to the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Public Works could be a positive step for local businesses. Public Works Minister Dean McPherson handed over 15 properties to the provincial department earlier in the week. He says that the decision follows the termination of an agreement with the municipality, citing inconsistent lease management, ownership disputes, and complaints of unfair treatment from local businesses. He says he was first alerted to the challenges by the Federated Hospitality Association of South Africa last year. The association's provincial chairperson, Brent Tangi, has confirmed there has been complaints. He says the month-to-month leases offered by the municipality created uncertainty for businesses. He says they now hope the transfer helps to resolve the issues around lease agreements. Finally, international story. Iran and Pakistan have called for greater cooperation, including parliamentary ties, so as to strengthen coordination against common enemies while condemning Israel of its acts of aggression and terrorism in the region. In a meeting on the sidelines of the Inter-Parliamentary Conference of Speakers of Parliament in Islamabad today, Iranian Parliament's Deputy Speaker Ali Nigzad and Pakistan's National Assembly Speaker Sadar Ayaz Sadiq reaffirmed their countries' shared positions on regional and Islamic world issues. Nigzad expressed appreciation for Pakistan's hospitality and strongly condemns the recent terrorist attack in Islamabad, offering condolences to the victims' families and to the people and government of Pakistan. On this part, Sadiq lauded the resistance of the Iranian people in the face of Israeli attacks and also praised Iran for its befitting response to the Israeli attacks or aggression. You're with that 25 degrees. That's the news.
To Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Get ready to elevate your fitness game at First Fitness in Durban's Berea. With a spacious free weight area, award-winning equipment, and exclusive ladies-only parking and training level, we've got everything you need to crush your goals. Hit the ground running on our outdoor track or unleash your inner warrior in our MMA and boxing dungeon. Plus, enjoy high security and ample parking. And don't forget to refuel at our halal coffee and health restaurant for the best in coffees, smoothies, and healthy eats. Join us today and redefine your fitness journey. First Fitness, dare to be extraordinary.
It's not just about the bride. It's about family, community, and celebrating the men who make our society strong. Introducing the Afternoon Jam Ultimate Bride Champion, a first of its kind. Join us for a fun-filled afternoon with a chill zone, kids corner, entertainment, comedy, stalls, and more. Entry is absolutely free, so bring everyone. Don't miss the Ultimate Bride Champion on the 22nd of November 2025 at the Al Ansar Foundation, 207 West Road, Overport. Brotherhood meets competition. The Afternoon Jam Ultimate Bride Champion is powered by Dawood Megastore. Sounds fun? See you there.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Kenfield Auto.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. ربنا لا تجعلنا مع القوم الظالمين.
I won't start.
Kenfield Auto.
Noisy brakes.
Kenfield Auto.
Due for a service.
Kenfield Auto. Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto.
Elevate your style with Almol kurtas and fragrances from Potent Ice Perfumes, exclusively available at Alansar Shop. Visit us at 207 West Road or call 031-208-1601. Experience the best in fashion and perfumery. Alansar Shop where elegance meets fragrance.
Allah, 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 Allah.
तन्हा हूँ मैं और इम्तिहान लाखों तने हैं सामने बैठा हूँ मैं मायूस कुन आए ना कोई मुझे थामने अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير मायूब हूँ तेरा करम पर्दा रखा इज्जत भी दी बढ़ के दिया औकात से दौलत भी ताकत भी और वक्त भी कर दे खता हर माफ तू फहरिस्त इसियां को छोड़ दे अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير रंगीनियों खुद गर्जियों में है गुजारी ये उम्र है आरज़ू बस कि यही कर दूं तेरे नाम शामो सहर तस्कीन दिल हासिल करूं रुख अपनी जानिब तू मोड़ दे अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير लब पे रहे जिक्रो दुआ और तुझसे मैं डरता रहूं करके अमल कुरान पे जन्नत की राहों पे चलता रहूं खिदमत करूं इस्लाम की पछतावे का गम तोड़ दे अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير रोता रहा सजदों में जो दिल में लिए उम्मत का गम पढ़ता रहूं मैं तो फतन अपने नबी पे दुरूद हर कदम हो रूह जब तन से जुदा जन्नत की जानिब चले दौड़ कर अल्लाह अल्लाह तू मेरी सुन ले सदा حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير الله
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marsberg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. The name is Yunus Sac, co-hosted tonight with the show by Sumaya Khan. Before the news break, Sumaya was chatting briefly about challenges faced by the youth due to limited unemployment opportunities. She chatted briefly with Ismail Mohammed, CEO of Iqra Trust, about Iqra Trust initiatives relating to dealing with these type of issues. She also interviewed Lorraine Pillay, Alagasen, a community activist, and Lorraine raised some very pertinent points about the depression and poverty and other issues related to the youth when they're unemployed. They're looking at other ways of supporting their sort of agenda. However, we're also going to chat now briefly about an analysis of the medium-term budget policy statement. We know the markets were watching Finance Minister Enoch Godonwana very, very closely today when he delivered the medium-term budget policy statement. With us in the studio, we have Hassan Motala, the chartered accountant, asset manager, economist, and he will be giving us a brief, highlight of some of the important comments and decisions taken by the Finance Minister Enoch Godonwana. Hassan, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hassan, as usual, shukran for joining us. Can you, present some of the pertinent highlights of today's medium-term budget policy statement?
Yunus, I think firstly, it was such a completely different tone and different event to what we saw in February. Remember, February was a disaster. We had the chaos of the first one, the second one, and the third one. And then, finally, we had the budget was stable and settled after wrangling between the different political parties. This time around, very pleasant, a bit more optimism, a bit more sort of positivity, if you can say, that came out of the both. The finance minister seems to have exuded a bit of positivity and optimism, and I think it was spread across Parliament and the like, a lot more buoyancy, if you can call it that as well. First and foremost, the budget deficit, or what budget deficit means, every one of us at home know that we normally, in our own households as well, we have a budget. How much of income we're bringing in and how much we're spending for the month. Similarly, in South Africa, for the government, it's what revenues that they're generating for the year and what they're spending. Generally speaking, and over the last number of years, there's always a deficit. We're spending more than what we are generating. What was positive, though, was positive as in slightly positive, was that the budget deficit is expected to be a little bit lower than what the minister had indicated in February of this year. But more importantly, he's anticipating that over the next 3 years, that budget deficit will reduce from around 4.5% of GDP to around 2.7% in the 2028-2029 financial year. So that's quite a nice decline, because what that implies is that there's less borrowing that will take place in the years to come. One of the biggest challenges South Africa has had as a government and we as a nation over the last 15 years, is that our debt has grown at a rapid pace during that period of time. And with the result of that, our debt to GDP has skyrocketed. From 15 years ago, where we were in the 30-odd% debt to GDP ratio, we are now sitting in the 70s debt to GDP ratio. What he did indicate in this budget, though, he said he expects it to peak as a debt to GDP ratio this year. So what he's saying is that it'll peak at around 78% debt to GDP. And going forward over the next 3 years, he sees that ratio declining. Still not much, but at least the first time we've heard in the budget in the last few years that they're expecting the debt to GDP ratio to firstly peak this year and then reduce in the next, over the next 2 to 3 years. So we're hoping that comes through. The second key point to come out of the budget is that tax revenues were better than expected. And that was mainly twofold. The one was our mining sector is having a phenomenal run. If you look at the gold sector, the platinum sector, they're having one of the best years that we've seen in the last many years. Particularly gold is hitting the ball out of the park. But even platinum has had a very strong run over the last year as well. What that means, though, is that increased tax revenues is coming in from the corporates, particularly the mining sector. So that is boosting a bit of corporate tax and therefore is helping in terms of our revenue generation. The second area is that consumer spending has still been relatively strong. And with the result of that is that VAT receipts has been also better than expected. So VAT has also increased and picked up and has contributed to better than expected revenues. So with the result, revenues was a bit better than expected and expenditure was actually sort of controlled and sort of in line with what our expectations were. So therefore, you're seeing again an improvement in terms of the budget deficit. The third area he highlighted was the point around inflation. Now, inflation, remember, we're a country where prior to democracy, we had gone through a period where we were what we would call hyperinflation. South Africa, when you went through there, we had the financial rand and we had the commercial rand and we had various things. We went through periods where we saw inflation in the 20-odd%. Things became very expensive in a short space of time. And then we've reduced over time and we were in a band or a target band, what was called a 3 to 6% target band, which was set by the Reserve Bank of South Africa. Now, in the last year or so, there's been a bit of a debate between the Reserve Bank and the Treasury and the Minister of Finance. And they both have settled now to say that our target range for inflation would be 3%. What that means for everyone out there is that their intention or the expectation is to control the cost of prices across the board, whether it's services, across a range of products and services that we are exposed to. There are things that are out of our control, and obviously that will impact, whether it's oil prices and things like that, or demand and supply constraints that can impact us. But the intention is that to try and keep core inflation at least around 3%, because what that helps to do is that it helps to reduce firstly the cost of borrowing. So for example, we are a high cost borrowing country. If you look at what it costs us to borrow whether it's a home loan or it's to finance a car, it costs anywhere between 10 to 13% for the ordinary homeowner out there. In many of the Western and European countries and the like, it costs them anywhere between 3 to 6%. There's a big differential. And that's because the inflation levels are relatively lower. So our expectation is the intention is to have a lower inflation target and to try and keep with that and therefore reduce our cost of borrowing over time. I think, importantly, it was a very, very sort of optimistic and a more positive budget. And the fourth point I want to highlight was the focus around infrastructure. Infrastructure remains a key issue to drive economic growth in this country. What we have seen, although today unfortunately and yesterday as well, we did experience in Musgrave, Morningside, Essenwood, Overport, many areas in some of the suburbs in Durban, we had some outages in terms of electricity. But by and large, there's been stability in terms of electricity supply across the country. I think there's a focus now to ensure that infrastructure around road, rail, ports and those things, they're spending on it, and to incorporate also some of the private sector into some of those projects as well. Especially you're looking at the ports and the rails and those areas, there will be an incorporation of that. So he's allocating a bit more towards infrastructure spending, and therefore together with the private sector, the intention is that over the next few years, there'll be an improvement in terms of our logistics and those areas as they're spending and improving that as well. So I think net, a much more, positive and enthusiastic sort of budget that came out of this midterm budget. And I think importantly, that talk about VAT increases that there was so much of debates and arguments in the February. He sort of indicated now that that's not going to happen in February next year. So we can sort of take out VAT. We're hoping, one of the key points though is that SARS needs to still come to the party by getting in an additional 20 billion or so in terms of tax receipts or that's owed to them by various parties. So they're trying to get that done by February next year. But at the same time, I think VAT seems to be something now that in terms of an increase that seems to be off the table, and hopefully there wouldn't be any other forms of tax increases for South Africans. I think medical aid remains a question mark. And I think particularly the tax credits for the more wealthier people, that potentially could come off the table, come February next year.
Shukran, Hassan, for giving us an update on this particular budget, the budget policy statement, and we trust and hope it will create a positive sentiment in the markets, because our Rand has been performing considerably well. Yesterday it was about 17.13. I'm sure there would have been a reaction to the Rand, as well as our all-share index, the JSE, has reached phenomenally high percentages as we speak. I'm sure that this particular policy statement will create more room for government to direct fund towards essential services rather than only debt repayments, which is good. I want to bring Sumaya back into the discussion because Ismail was chatting briefly about some of the initiatives that Iqra Trust is involved with, and the one that's directly involved to our subject for today is the challenges faced by the youth due to unemployment. And employment opportunities need to be created, and entrepreneurs, especially the SMEs, need to be capacitated. We mentioned briefly that we got the souk that's coming up, and we're hoping 360 stallholders will get capacitated. There's a lot of enthusiasm and interest. So, Sumaya, I'd like to hand over the discussion back to you to continue your interview with Ismail Mohammed.
Brother Ismail, Milo, do you know, now with Iqra Trust, you are on the ground and you are noticing what are the challenges, and one of the main things the youth is facing, as we were discussing earlier, that's what we're unpacking, is unemployment. So how can Iqra Trust assist? You mentioned something about skills, training and partnering with other guys. Can you tell us more about that?
Okay. I just want to go one back before I come to the micro enterprises covering on skills development. So we've got a partnership. Dr. Baker again takes all the credit. And yeah, I'm waxing lyrical about Iqra Trust, but Dr. Baker deserves all the credit. I can't wait till you have him on, Yunus. There's an engagement called DUT School Engagement. So there's a lady called Berenice Delacroix. She's a social entrepreneur. So she sat down with DUT, and obviously came to later other sponsoring parties we are part of, and called it DUT School Engagement. They chose 10 metro schools. Again, school population each more than 1,000. And they looked at different areas which they want to focus on. That they left the academics to the school. So they do sports, they do something like chef, they do skills, a lot of entrepreneurship. And drama. I've had to go and sit a whole day at Saturday College and watch over 30 acts, although I wasn't a judge, but I guessed the winner, predicted the winner. And so they've got a lovely entrepreneurship. So what's lacking is a concept of entrepreneurship. And I want to cover this within 3 angles where Iqra is definitely playing its role and has played, and inshallah will play a greater role. Creating skilled people via our tertiary institutions. So what we're missing, and as a banker, I'm going to tell you, we're missing the middle. If you say you get a social grant and you go apply for NSFAS, you got a great chance of getting NSFAS, right? But what's happening to our middle income earners? You are the ones that have to attend to banks, get loans, family and friends to try and think. Because obviously if you're wealthy, you're paying for it. If you're on the low income via social grants, you're going to NSFAS, you're winning. Now, what happens to the middle income people? And that's being identified. We've got a major problem between the 350 and 600,000 cost to company, roughly. So that's where we come in. We also do interest-free loans and we do bursaries. Very select, deserving students, high academic achievers. And we've identified 5 areas South Africa is lacking in skills and which we want to focus on. Number 1, healthcare sector. Still big demand for doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, optometrists, pharmacists. Number 2, teachers and academia. I think AIDS, the ravages of AIDS, we're seeing now the benefit. A lot of teachers are leaving and they're not finding enough talent. So teaching and academia. Accountants and financial analysts. We see us importing that talent.
Yeah.
More accountants and financial analysts. And artisans. That's something I must tell you. You look for an artisan today, you see somebody that's from Zimbabwe or somebody, seriously, from another country, African country. We haven't produced, I don't want to say this, late Kader Asmalo, pass any comment. I don't know why they closed the technical colleges in his time. And that's the ones that have stayed open. So there's not enough technical colleges producing artisans. And that's where you got from your, we got infrastructure, but now to maintenance, boilermakers, welders, plumbers, aircon technicians, these are demanding roles. And then the other most key one that's a worldwide phenomenon is engineering and technology. That's just STEM. You know it yourself from schooling. Science, technology, engineering, maths. So we've got selected students. Amazingly, we got about 4 medical students that we're helping this year. We're helping a few engineers. Actually, by default or by design, Dr. Baker must say the credit. We are covering most of those 5 areas. I think artisans an area that I want to focus more on. I haven't found too many skilled training centers for artisans. So there's potential for even business people. Accredited skilled training in artisans. Our 4th one, we were discussing skills development centers. We found them. I'm just chatting to them and talking about this mentorship, where they have this incubation period. And I find some of the skill centers lacking that. So, because like we said, I think Hassan covered the figures. There's not enough economic growth to absorb, even if you're producing those fast in the skill centers. So rather get them to earn their own income, rather get them to I've been to a skill center in the city of Durban where it's an 18-month course to sew clothes and that type of thing. So someone can go and they're hoping to get employed. I told them, go and produce your own from home onto flea markets and that type of thing. Or set up a CMT plant and talk to a business. And the last one, which I did mention previously, was the micro enterprise. Now in South Africa, if you under $1 million turnover, you regard as a micro enterprise.
Yeah.
Right? And that's for me the biggest gap. There's not enough and we're not training people. We got a small empowerment fund with SANZAF, and that's where we're taking people on Zakah and we're identifying, they do, I must say, most of the legwork, but we sit on the same evaluation committee. And we've got a gentleman named of Reese. He does the business management training and type of thing. I'm being impressed with the presentations. They come dressed, and he taught them in the last one, half of them were making food. He made them bring the food to the presentation for us to taste. And I had Maulana Kasani, I said, you better have the burger because I can't take on any more weight. So they brought on people with samosas, and then there was people with clothing. And I noticed one part, it's nothing to do with us. One of our Muslim companies in the perfume sector gave stock in kind to SANZAF. They're taking the people on to go and resell that. So it's teaching them trading skills. So that. Look at your areas. I covered early childhood development, the school system, post-schooling tertiary. Then I covered skills development and then micro enterprise. That's my 5-point plan personally. And I think that should be South Africa's 5-point plan.
You know, Iqra Trust, alhamdulillah, is doing a hell of a lot when you really look at it. Challenges faced by the youth due to limited employment opportunities. We received a voice note which our tech is going to play from Busisiwe Ntshingila is a former Action SA chair of eThekwini region, Berea Morning site CPF, also youth empowerment life coach. She sent us a voice note which our tech will play.
Sister Sumaya and Brother Yunus, my regards to you. Assalamu alaikum. I did hear the interview with Sister Lorraine as well, and I think what I actually wanted to say fits in, because what I've noticed in South Africa, being involved in both politics and community projects and volunteering, is that the left hand is not speaking to the right hand. We have amazing policies. We've got the National Youth Development Agency. We've got IDC. We have all of these structures. but it's not transcending to benefit the youth on the ground. Yes, we have a reduction in youth unemployment, but now I have a question in that stat. That is a quarterly stat. Is that employment permanent? Is that employment temporary? Because it does not help to give half a loaf for a short period of time. What we need to be doing is what Brother Yunus was saying, is that once we give you half a loaf of bread, we need to teach you how to bake the bread. Then we need to teach you how to upsell the bread. Then we need to teach you how to market the bread so that you can teach others as well. So in South Africa, we've got billions and trillions that we're spending, but how effective is it? Are we following up, making sure that all of these fundings that are being sent out, the grants that are being sent out, are they sustainable? Are the actual skills that people are learning? Can they move into other aspects? We've got unemployment of over 23% for graduates. So that even tells you that even the education system is not enough to remove this country from the problems that it's facing. So that is why I walked away from conventional politics, because I think we need to start looking at unconventional solutions to say, if you've got a degree, why are you still sitting at home? How do we make that work and how do we make it effective? I've been very impressed by civic organizations like Sister Lorraine and also like your ratepayers associations, because they are using practical solutions to solve practical problems. And I think that is the shape or the direction we need to be taking as a country, to say, what do we use, how do we use what we have to get what we want? Then only will we see effective change and consistent change and permanent change. We do need to empower the youth. We need to understand, who are we empowering? Is it a child-headed homes? Are there going to be more youth that are unemployed from that home? And how do we plan for the future? If you look at Singapore, they did it very well in planning for the future of their country. We need to start having plans. I've gone to municipal meetings. I've gone to so many meetings. There's many presentations and a lot of information. None of it has timeframes. That's your first problem. Second problem, they don't self-evaluate and correct. Yes, if you've done well and you've achieved your targets, how do you maximize that and how do you exceed that? So I think as a country, we need a new type of leadership. We need a new type of thinking, because we keep recycling the same problems. We keep complaining, but nothing is actually changing. Change begins in saying, how do I do something differently to get the results that I want? And that is what I think we need to start doing, to say, how do we implement change that will be permanent and also that will have better results? I love the topic. Thank you so much for having me, and I will keep listening on my end. Salam.
That was Busisiwe Ntshingila, former Action SA. That was Busisiwe Ntshingila, former Action SA chair of the eThekwini region, Berea and Morningside CPF, also youth empowerment life coach. You could hear Brother Yunus and Milo, the passion she has. You know, she was so involved in politics. I know earlier on, a couple of years ago, when we were looking at safety and security, she came on shows. And now she said she has left that. It's civics, it's ratepayers association, it's us, it's like Iqra Trust, it's like Al Ansar taking charge and serving the community, because we cannot rely on government.
Yes, and I think she made some very pertinent points. A lot of these politicians are letting us down. We talk about this all the time in our shows. They basically maladministering, corruption, and it's a subject in itself. And if the civic organizations and ratepayer associations don't tackle this in the next elections that are coming up, then obviously the incompetent leaders and officials will be involved in the municipalities. Because I recall during our reign of office at the eThekwini municipality, the first thing we used to look at is empowering our youth, capacitating them. And I recall during that period of time, many politicians came to me in the Human Settlements Department, and they indicated to me that they have more than 300 unemployed people in these different wards. Please find them employment. And we looked at human settlement projects. Milo spoke briefly about, you need artisans, you need people that can do menial tasks. And we trained them to do these menial tasks. And when I retired, many, many years ago, about in 2017, I was pleased to note that a lot of these people who we employed at the lowest level as general workers, became supervisors in the different areas in the water division, engineering division, because they trained and they grew up. I think Busisiwe was saying that you can't just leave them unattended and give them something and expect them to survive. They must have ambitions in life, particularly the graduates, because when they finish their studies at a high cost in university, they need employment. And as the Al-Ansar Foundation, we're working closely with other NGOs to look at having home industry, an emphasis on it, even like baking, providing, a bakery service, sewing classes and various other opportunities for unemployed people. And as you said, it's a youth, but there's also other people that were rendered unemployment because of the state of the economy, and Hassan talks about it all the time. So, and Milo, I'm sure, through Sumaya, you'll be able to comment that this becomes the necessary for all organizations, not only NGOs, and the corporate sector needs to invest on this program. I know we're working with lots of these corporate organizations to provide employment opportunities for the unemployed. Because when we did an analysis of last year's souk, as I mentioned, we had 360 stalls, each one of them capacitating more than 3 or 4 people. So, you ended up with 4,000 people being gainfully employed, and also ensuring that over the 10-day period, whatever profits they make, they're able to use those profits to buy more goods and sustain themselves for the balance of the year. But there's always opportunities for pop-ups and flea markets. Lots of organizations are having this, so we have to find ways and means of earning a living, but encourage our youth, Sumaya.
Busisiwe said it the way it is. We have the policies, the best policies, but is it being implemented? Is there a time frame? Is anyone's doing the evaluation? Anyone is monitoring? And we can talk the fancy language, but are we really bringing change? Brother Ismail, Milo, is Iqra geared to address these changes and these challenges on a macro scale?
Well, that's very interesting you ask, because in part of my vision and our vision, I'm saying Maya taking the ownership.
Alhamdulillah, that means you're really in it.
There's something key that I think we've all been talking about. I think we've certainly been saying it. I think Yunus came out very strongly. I don't know, regarded as an idealist in a lot of circles, but I think collaboration, because you're asking now on a macro scale, right? Not a micro scale, on a macro scale. I think we need to bring together, whether we do it geographically, whether we do it nationally, all PBOs, all CSIs of corporates, anyone interested, civil society, community, you've had, because we're lacking leadership. And we need to set up where we all come and speak the same language, where we all can unite. You see, people think when you're collaborating, I have to give up my sponsors, I have to give up my database, I have to give up my projects, nothing like that. Always think, we may have similar projects, let's collaborate, it has a bigger impact. And this is the theme that I want to emulate over and over. I'm going to harp about is collaboration. We were just talking, funny enough, you mentioned, I was talking to a few other NGOs, and we're talking about, imagine, there are about 25,000 schools with over 13 million scholars. Imagine if we could come out, you're really shifting the scale now. You're really shifting the dial, rather. And could come up with something as simple as maybe rehashing those lessons out in some sort of data form to replay it for us. I don't know, something out the box. Something that can impact and really change the perceptions of us. I mean, it doesn't only have to be only us as a Muslim organization, but we all can come together in one project that can impact maybe on 13 million scholars, on 6 to 8 million unemployed maybe, because I think one of your previous callers, she covered about technology and the shifting. She's totally right. Technology is a major issue. I mean, we're talking 4, 5, where are we? 5 IR. And we've noticed that at Iqra, and we've created like a bit of something we call Iqra Trust, Dr. Baker, Iqra Trust Knowledge Center, which actually we're going to convert it, I think, to Iqra Trust Technology Center, where we bring kids in that are in school and miss the coding part. So with UK is there and we partner. So we're seeing the gaps, but I still think it's micro. We need to get together. I don't know who wants to host it, who wants to. We can get, and you know what amazing? Business people will pay for it, Yunus. Just if we get like-minded people, they don't have to give up the status where they currently are, the organization status or anything of that matter. We're not even asking for all their financials or anything like that. But just we could find one project with all, and it doesn't matter how much each one has to contribute as well, because bigger organizations will give bigger amount of money. But one major educational drive that can impact somewhere along that line, whether it's early childhood development, whether it's in the schooling, the tertiary, within the skills, or maybe even under micro enterprises, something will shift to that, something via an app, that any person, because cell phones everybody has. In fact, I think we have more cell phones than people in South Africa. We have more than 63 million cell phones apparently. And imagine if we could do some app where everyone could partake in something that could skill one. I don't know. I still have to research. Only 6 months. Iqra, give me time. Give me time.
Yes. I was just trying to work out in South Africa, the foreigners that came in and capacitated themselves.
Right.
The Malawians, the Zimbabweans, the Nigerians, the Pakistanis, the Indians. Pakistanis became hairdressers. They became cell phone repair shops, selling cell phones, and running businesses in the textile industry, etc. Zimbabweans came in as artisans, technicians, and they arrive. Now you take our South Africans; they basically not interested in all these things. So we got to create the awareness, because when these foreigners came into South Africa, and there's a large amount of them, and they couldn't come here and rely on handouts, because they didn't qualify for those handouts. So they helped themselves and became entrepreneurs, and many of them are running flourishing technical businesses.
And yet they have degrees and qualifications.
If you take, for example, providing, a security service, like cameras, etc., or a gate automation, etc., the biggest guys are the foreigners. And, one gate automation, the guy picks up 3,000 or 4,000 rand. They become plumbers and they ever available to do work. Refrigeration mechanics, air conditioning technicians. Now, we have to ensure that our youth are empowered to look at these sort of opportunities that are available, study and get involved. The elder people, those that are in the middle income category, they get into business. And we know through the Sook, many of them started off small and they're running flourishing businesses after that. Because in our media launch last year, a lot of those people that still, have stalls in the Sook have actually indicated they started off in the flea markets, etc. There's Friday evening flea markets everywhere. Westwood Mall, where Al-Ansar had a whole lot of events, Checkers is now occupying that premises. But they have an opportunity for events at the different level. That brings in the food count, the people, and they all start developing these skills. But I just want to bring Hassan in. Hassan, there are certain measures that, government and the private sector can stimulate the economy, thus creating employment opportunities for our Ismail has got the figure 31.5%. So which means that there is a response to unemployment, because Milo mentioned earlier, and Lorraine as well as Busisiwe said that if we're not going to address this issue of unemployment, South Africa is going to become a major problem for vices that are going to take place. Hassan, you'd like to give some comment in that regard?
I think, firstly, yesterday the unemployment numbers came out, and a couple of the key areas where there was improvement in terms of job gains came through in areas such as construction. We're talking about community, so community-related initiatives contributing to jobs, and also the trade industries. So service industries, trade industries, construction industries, there are opportunities. Obviously, over time, things like AI and those type of things will impact industries. But South Africa is still going through, we're faced where there's still a lot that can draw in employment in many of those industries and many other sectors, and we must utilize them. The unfortunate thing is there's been a huge reliance always on government. Government, when we had that global financial crisis in 2009, 2010, that time, government came up with some infrastructure programs. It did create some employment. The unfortunate thing, though, is that when you created this, you put in a huge amount of people into, they put in a huge amount of money and employ people, but there was not very productive employment that also came out of it. Look at the public sector. Public sector in many cases still remains bloated, in the sense that you've got people employed but are not doing a very efficient and excellent job as what you would expect. And I think that by relying solely on government is not the way. You have to drive employment via your small and medium enterprises and the public and the private sector. Small and medium enterprises can generate significant amounts of people employed. Whether it's your, the stores that happen at the Al Ansar Souk, or whether, but there's regular employment like that of small people from 1 to 50, anywhere between that. There's substantial opportunities. What needs to be done is, though, red tape must be cut still a lot more drastically. Make it easier for people to get in. Make it easier to set up a business, to start a business, whether it's registration or bank accounts or those type of things. It needs to be made a lot easier. And therefore, things, uses of a Capitec, Time Bank and whatever, people are using those options now because it's easier to set up via those banks, and it's a bit more cost effective to set up there. So cost of doing business and the bureaucracy and the red tape need to be cut. And that remains still a big challenge for many small and medium enterprises. The other areas is that, again, labor laws and labor restrictions, while they mean very well and very good, we're still a very, very developing country. And we need a lot more employment. Yes, our ultimate aim is to make sure that we have fantastic and high quality jobs for majority of the people in the country. But we are a country where over 30% of the people are unemployed, and an even larger number within the younger generation. And that is a big issue. And so we need, rather than relying on a 350 Rand grant, that individual can work for maybe 3,000, 4,000 Rand a month. It's not much. I know we can say it's not, but when working and you're earning 3,000 to 4,000 Rand a month relative to 350 Rand a month, it's a big difference. And it has a big impact on the household. You get 2 or 3 people in that household then earning 3,000 or 4,000 Rand a month, then it has a meaningful impact in terms of the overall household. Yeah, you're getting a household that's getting, one person may be earning, and then 2 of them earning only 350 Rand grants. It's not a big impact and not a meaningful impact. So I think there needs to be a little bit easing in terms of labor, especially within your small and medium enterprises. And I think we need to drive that point. You just want to highlight one big issue that is impacting South Africa dramatically and really badly over this past 12, 18 months. And it's being driven also by unemployment and other issues. It's the issue around gambling. Gambling is becoming one of the biggest curses of this nation that we have not seen in decades. We think that alcohol and tobacco is a big social issue. I'm telling you, online gambling and the like could potentially be one of the biggest disasters for this country that we have ever seen. To put into perspective, recent results that came out from the likes of Pick n Pay, from Truworths Foschini Group yesterday, and there was another retailer one of the other days. Sean Summers, CEO of Pick n Pay, indicated 70 billion rands was lost in the economy to online gambling, which went to spending on consumer retail. 70 billion rands. That's a huge amount of money. Again, to put into perspective, there was recently some research done. It's saying that 4 out of 10 South Africans are gambling. 40% of the South African population is gambling. Have you ever, it is mind-boggling to think that 40% of the population is gambling. And guess what? The most poorest of the poor, they're spending between 30 to 40% of their income on gambling. How can you do just you're earning a meager? Why are they doing it though? They're doing it because they are financially distressed. And because it is so easy to open up your app or open up the phone and just play an online gambling game or whatever it is, you will see some of the games they're playing. You know, the games of like where you're taking a paper jet. If I throw it, you throw it so far, and if you're betting who throws it or how far it goes. They're betting on that. They're betting on that, and it's becoming so easy for anyone to gamble. But the poorest of the are betting between 30 to 40% of their income monthly is going towards gambling. Secondly, the middle income, they're spending also close to but it's your lower income and the middle income where the impact is dramatic, and it's a social issue. It's a huge, and it's not, so we as Muslims know that gambling is one of our major sins, but we need to ensure that this message, and we drive it as civil society and the like, that working with other religions and other community groups and the like, to drive this message that this is a big issue that we face. And there's some initiatives that we need to push. The one issue is try and restrict, or whether they'll ban it, I don't know, but restrict as much as possible online gambling. I don't know how you can do it through the sites, or banning certain sites, or restricting access to certain sites, or whatever it may be. Like for example, many Western countries, children are banned from social media, during a period of time or whatever it is. That we have to introduce that in terms of online gambling. The second point is ban all online advertising, gambling ads. Everywhere you look, whether it's the television or you open up any social media app, whether it's Facebook, there's that. Somewhere Hollywood bets will pop up, or Betway will pop up, or something. Football, you and I mean, we love watching our football. How many football teams we are seeing these days are being sponsored by online betting platforms? It's not only a South African issue, it's becoming a global issue. But South Africa being a developing country, the impact in terms of society is massive. And we need to counter this before it gets completely out of hand. And the third thing, and this is where, you can write to him, I'm certainly going to write to them, when the minister has his budget, he asks, they normally have this thing, say, give them your comments on what you think would be a appropriate way to try and include in the budget. Flood the minister in January, February, whatever, this thing to say, introduce huge sin taxes on all forms of gambling. If we can have huge sin taxes on the likes of alcohol and tobacco, why should gambling be excluded? You're getting gambling operators like these Hollywood bets, their corporations are sitting in offshore havens and the like. Yes, they're paying certain taxes here, but they're taking the money offshore. How much are they really putting into society? They're putting nothing. They're really putting nothing in terms of our society. And this is so if we can't ban it, first prize will be to ban it as much as we can. But we are a democracy, and they're allowing a lot more. But try and force at least certain forms of gambling to be banned. Secondly, if introduce a lot more taxes and ban advertising related to that. The counters from these lobby groups will be, there'll be an impact on economic, financial impact. Rubbish. If you look at what it contributes and the positive versus the negative impact far outweighs the like. Advertising was banned on tobacco. Advertising is now regulated, or still is quite prevalent, but on alcohol, it's a bit more, to some extent, there's some warnings and the like. Has it impacted those industries in terms of their revenues? Yes, tobacco over time has slowed down, but they're still printing huge amounts of money. At the same time, they're also paying sin taxes. We must introduce it now to gambling and push the Treasury and Minister to introduce that. If we cannot ban gambling completely, at least then we should get a lot of taxes from it, which can contribute to meaningful employment across other industries.
Hassan, I think you made some very important observations there, because if you look at gambling, in all these television adverts, you find Betway sponsoring the SAT20, Betway sponsoring, these rugby players, in their shorts, you got their Betway. Hollywood bets, you got it in the Premier League sides, shirts. And people are being encouraged to do this type of gambling. And these liquor companies, the advertising of Heineken and Castle is becoming rife. So it's the order of the day. And as you said, billions of dollars is being invested. So I want to hand over to you now. You brought in a very important part, and I think Milo wants to comment also on this gambling part, is, the need for home industry to really, come into effect to ensure that, this becomes, one of the areas that will successfully provide employment opportunities, because a lot of our women folk in the souk are involved with the home industry, which also covers not only catering but nursing care, sewing and other things. Perhaps you want to touch on that, but I think Milo would like to come in before that.
Just to Hassan, it's perplexing. I mean, look at, you've got Durban, beautiful Durban ocean, right? So we attract ourselves as a foreign tourist destination, local and foreign. Beautiful oceans to swim the year round. Who would have thought within 20-kilometer radius, you've got 2 casinos, and they made it so appealing as well. I still can't come to terms with how they they didn't see the impact of high poverty, inequality, unemployment. How did they put 2 casinos? I don't know. In Durban, within 20 kilometers, give that low or past that. I don't know. That shocks me. I still can't come to terms with that, right? So that's a major attraction, and you can see communities like difficult communities, working class, Phoenix, at that border, those kind of. What are they going to do? It's going to be attraction, right? And then I think the other thing was, I thought I was reading sometimes some legislation, and I think I lost track.
I also, it was last week.
No, where they're taking up the gambling. No, but I'm talking about something long before, being playing in sports. I thought that advertising by tobacco, gambling and alcoholic companies was to be banned for sporting and that type of thing, but it never materialized, I think. I don't know.
Gambling is right. Look at every sporting codes, cricket, soccer.
Yeah.
It's rife across T-shirts, on the television, stadiums. It's everywhere.
It should never allowed Betway to get in there. Yeah.
Well, SA20, the Betway, the biggest sponsors.
Yes, SA20 International.
And they are from India. India is rife with all these betting issues and gambling, etc., and even liquor sales. In the past, it used to be banned in these places. So Hassan has quoted astronomical figures, which could sort out poverty in various countries.
But think about it, temptation is there. The unemployment rate is high. We have the youth who are sitting at home, sitting at street corners, desperate. They go into gambling.
Well, listen, they think they can turn their income around, and they go to Hollywood Bets, the race course, and say, right, I'm going to punt on this horse. I got a couple of hundred in my pocket. I'll come back with a couple of thousand, and they lose that, and then they borrow, and they lose further. And Milo, you mentioned these casinos. They go in and they play. They're hoping no one comes out a winner. So this is why.
Well, there's a catchphrase I used with somebody, and I was explaining why they mustn't gamble. I always talk to you. I said the house always wins, and I made them repeat it. The house always wins. I say 100,000 people enter a casino, maybe one will work out some winnings. Majority lose, so the house always wins.
Well, when they put in those coins and they hear a couple of meters away somebody is ringing and thousands of coins are falling, they recognize it's my turn, and then you get thousands of people losing their money and coming out empty-handed, not even enough to go and buy a snack or something. So it's a major problem, and this is why Sharia has banned all these things. And our youngsters have to be aware of this thing to really go to these places. But that online, betting is a huge problem.
Scary.
And this also results in a sort of corruption in the various sectors, because people are basically losing matches to ensure that those that are betting they sort of get paid from those guys. So, sometime in various sporting codes, and Hassan will tell you, in Premier League games as well, the punters are really backing, and in India and Pakistan, this is rife, where people are betting, and the players are threatened that if you don't lose your wicket or don't score the goal, that you're going to, and there's opportunities for them. So corruption is becoming rife, and it's a scourge in the economy that's becoming a major problem. Shumaya, I think you were wanting to touch briefly on the home industry sector, and I know a lot of our people are involved, including the Africans in the home industry sector, and a lot of them have got these informal trades in town, and they're earning a decent living. So perhaps you just want to touch on that.
When you look at it, as you mentioned, we need to start these skills. And as Busisiwe mentioned it, besides giving them the loaf of bread, teach them how to bake the bread, then teach them how to sell the bread, then teach them how to market the bread. And home industries, a lot of them have started off like that. Even when you look at it coming back home at our souk, people started just with a table, and now from their kitchen, and now they're working from probably a garage or a big factory or something. So that's so important. But again, do not, they say, teach a man to fish, don't give him the fish. Yeah, so I think we need to look at it that way, because lots of organizations, Brother Sakur, they just want, they give the food and that's it.
But to me, I think a shift is coming. Yeah? I've met in my 6 months, and even before that, the shift is coming. I just spoke to one organization, a national organization, and the shift used to be 70% in food and aid and 30% in skill education. They've now reversed it.
Yeah.
They've also had a transition, a young team in there. And I'm not saying it's because a young team, but I think they realized the bigger picture as time went on. And it's shifted now to 70-30. So I think it's shifting, and that's why we need leadership. We talk only about the hard poverty, inequality, unemployment, but there's also a lack of leadership.
Plays
and that's why your immorality, Hassan was covering, and all your other issues, lack of leadership. Buzi covered that, if you heard. And she got frustrated, and then she moved away from so leadership. And that's why some of these things we're doing now, people miss the soft touch.
Yeah.
From young to sports, arts, drama, and various things, social entrepreneurship club, peace clubs, and other thing. You're bringing a change of leadership young. So you made it mention, Yunus, and you kept it mention, and I asked this from young, how does South Africa spending per capita on education, the largest in Africa, yes, the worst outcomes? Ask yourself that. Something's wrong. I'm not blaming the unions in any way. So, but the question is that it's a shift of, you said foreigners, a shift of culture is needed. And we're going to unfortunately have to go back, which our own president said, that had we invested 30 years ago in early childhood development, we've seen a whole new generation and a different generation. So it's a cultural shift needed. So we need to teach them entrepreneurship from when? The first 7 years. The first, even at preschool level, at play school, start teaching entrepreneurship and get it as a culture, a total shift. And inshallah, I think we have to give hope.
But on a harsh reality, EMS has been taken out. It's just in grade 7. Now imagine entrepreneurship. Learners used to, a couple of years ago, it was in grade 4. Now it's just with grade 7. So the whole culture is everything works with a card. Swipe it. But it's not telling you financial literacy. How do you pay for that card? And, lack of political representation, that's corruption and poor governance. That's what you're looking at. Unfulfilled political promises, and limited access, inequality and political exclusion. Weak implementation of youth policies. Who is there implementing it? Corruption again. Now, if you're going out, so that is why, as you said, the biggest, funding shows the least results.
And I don't want to make too many political comments. Just forgive me. Not my platform as Iqra Transparency. I'm going to be very careful and wary. That lies in my background there, but I don't use that platform on any political.
And those that are eligible to give zakat and discharging the zakat. That's another huge problem. But in the other sectors, people are not even giving donation anymore, beside the businesses, Milo. So from your point of view, we have to understand that your guys get limited grant or income coming from the various sectors to which you all distribute to deserving organizations.
he's got to a certain level or make it to a certain level self-sustainable. But however, to grow and to make a bigger impact, there's always that welcome need. We're not in Zakah collector area, must be there. But you won't believe this. I joined only 6 months and I see Zakah coming in, not as big figures, but these people are just passionate about Iqra. They know Iqra helps someone. I'll just give you 2 cases. The current head of the optometry department at UKZN, she said, thanks to Iqra. We went to a meeting, she said, thanks to Iqra. I was like shocked, right? And just kept quiet. We went to people, because like I say, you can't be everything to everybody. You can't help, so just manage your expectations. I tell people there's also other sources, because all of us work with limited budget. You, Al Ansar, work with limited budgets. Okay. We work on limited budget. So that's why I think a collaboration effort is going to make that macro impact for all of us. So we'll talk about that for the future. Yes, we have a limited budget, unfortunately, but I think Dr. Baker's taken the limited budget. When I've gone out there's a lot
He comes to the souk at Deer, into the Al Ansar souk, and he always looks forward to coming. And I'm not sure whether he's going to be around. You say he's leaving in 2 weeks' time, and he phones me always, and he says, "Please make sure you allow me to come in and have a look at how the traders are trading and how they eking out a living." And he walks around, and he used to really enjoy, the manner in which people trade for those 12 or 13 days. So there's joy in the man's life when it comes to people that are earning a living through hard work. And when he goes to these different fairs, and then he capacitates many of them. And when Al Ansar needed some support for our education projects, again, we know that a lot of families can't afford to provide education for special needs for the
whatever it is, you have to start somewhere. There are many graduates out there, unfortunately, that are looking maybe for the ideal job. You sometimes have to bite the bullet, start off somewhere, and then as time goes on, you get experience. Other opportunities do present themselves. So I think it's important that we try and get employed rather than relying on the social grants. Secondly, in terms of expenditure and budgeting, it's difficult. Things like electricity is up double digits, 12-13% up year on year. Food fortunately food has now sort of eased in terms of the increases, has sort of slowed down, but we came from last year where we had huge increases in many food. Comparing it to what you're spending, there has been an impact in terms of the standard of living and the quality of living as well. And there is no easy answer. The best is if we get more meaningful employment and more people employed in a household, it benefits the household overall. Unfortunately, in South Africa, you're having where a household of 4, 5, 6 people reliant on one breadwinner. And that's the big challenge. And if you have at least, 2 breadwinners or three breadwinners, not necessarily, it can be adult children, that are just finished university. They don't have to you got it on your phone as well. You can just tap and do this and that. But unfortunately,
We know there's major challenges in South Africa and indeed throughout the world. We talk about these problems that the Palestinians are facing, and we're nowhere near that. And the kind of sacrifices they're making, and when you listen to the TV and video footage coming through, that notwithstanding they're losing everything, they still have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say, Fasabrun Jamil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there for us. And you have little kids talking in that language, lost their entire family, and an orphan saying, that we have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is always hope, and we have to make du'as, the power of du'as. So on that note, I must thank our guest Milo for you joining us this evening. We hope that you and Mahmoud will be here again next week in the studio to impart some valuable advices. Sumaya for joining us in these programs, for imparting a lot of important knowledge, spending your late hours. I know you're teaching during the day, evenings. You hoping to rest at home, but you joined us this evening, and I know you co-hosting a lot of shows. And Alhamdulillah, I think it's valuable information going out to our communities. Hassan, as usual, he's our economist, our sort of asset manager, and he brings us up to date with information, including today's budget. We make du'as that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assist our people out there to ensure that they have an honest living, halal rizq, and in that way there's barakat in what they earn. So on that note, it brings us to the end of the program. We took half an hour more than usual. It's close to 10:30. I thank Dawood Mondley for joining us and providing an excellent technical service this evening. I'm much appreciated for your support. Mondley, I know it's past your bedtime also, so hopefully you have a safe trip back home. Until next week, Wednesday, when we will bring some topical information to you. We wish you everything of the best. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us and guide us towards the righteous path. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.